this resource, this river, this watershed is very important to the city of Port St. Lucie. They've recognized it from the very beginning as a great attribute to the city and a great asset that needs to be protected. We evaluated 5 corridors. We didn't even start with the Crosstown Parkway corridor. We looked south. We looked at Becker Road and Parr and looked at it, does it make sense to cross the river there as opposed to on the Crosstown Parkway corridor? And we looked at the Crosstown Parkway corridor as well. It was determined that only crossing here at the Crosstown Parkway corridor would solve the problem. What is that problem? The problem is the traffic congestion on the 2 existing bridges, Port St. Lucie Boulevard and Prima Vista Boulevard. That's the problem we're trying to solve. We looked at whether it made sense to build a tunnel under the river, and we determined that it didn't. We looked at changing operations, how the traffic signals work and so on. Again, doesn't solve the problem. So we focused really on crossing the river and where would be the best place to cross the river. And we really looked at 6 major alternatives. 1C was one of those 6 alternatives. We looked carefully at each of those 6. We gave them all the same evaluation through this process. We had an unbiased matrix and a selection criteria process that we developed and was reviewed by the regulatory agencies. And we walked these 6 alternatives through the process. We looked at impacts to wetlands. We looked at impacts to wildlife and fish, other natural resources. We looked at the impacts to the communities, because these projects all do have impacts to the communities to varying degrees. So we evaluated these 6 alternatives through this set of criteria with this evaluation matrix, and we determined that 1C was in fact, on balance, when you look at all of these factors, was the best place to cross the river. And then finally, once we determined that alternative 1C would be the best alternative, we looked at mitigating those impacts. There are some impacts associated with it. There's roughly 10 acres or so of wetlands that would be impacted, for example. And the city has come up with a very robust mitigation plan that will compensate for these impacts. It'll help the watershed, it'll improve water quality, it'll improve habitat once this mitigation plan is put in place. Our job was to administer this process under the National Environmental Policy Act. And part of that process is putting together the interdisciplinary team we had. On my team I had many biologists, environmental scientists, geologists, roadway engineers, structural engineers, and we also had a lot of help from the environmental agencies, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, the South Florida Water Management District, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They own the property where most of these alternatives are being evaluated, and so we coordinated closely with DEP. So we could protect the parklands and the investments that the state of Florida have made in these parklands. So we had a very robust, very multidisciplined team that looked at all aspects of this, helping us, checking our process, checking our results, and making sure that we were getting it right. And I'm confident we got it right.